I'm going to be honest here, chances are pretty good you're not using Groot correctly. Almost every Groot I encounter out there does multiple things in the opening encounter that show me that they aren't familiar with the mechanics of his abilities. And in today's video, I'm going to break down how to optimize your Groot performance. As always, let me get the disclaimers out of the way. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a firm believer that experience breeds excellence in any vocation or hobby, and the same applies to the way that I handle character guides. I never even think about making a guide until I have at least 20 hours logged on a character. That's why I have 15 characters at the Lord status now, and Groot is no different. I took him through the trenches, and I'm ready to speak about him now. Also, I'll have like no practice range footage in this video, as I think the most valuable videos are the ones that show you application of strategies against actual people on actual maps who are actually trying to kill you. So with that said, let's dive in. We're going to open today with the fundamental loop for Groot. It's really not that complicated. It just requires a slight adjustment to the way you see his kit. Okay, so listen up. Most people see Groot as an obstruction, okay? He puts walls up in your face. He makes you deal with those walls before you can engage the enemy team. He's a speed bump to most people, something you have to get through before you can really hit the gas. And let me tell you right now, this is wrong. Okay, take that idea of Groot, wad it into a little ball, toss it over your shoulder. Okay, we're going to undo and remake your image of Groot. He's not an obstruction. He's a trapper. He doesn't wall you off. He walls you in. Let me show you. In the gameplay, you're going to notice something right off the bat. Very seldom am I going to put a wall in front of someone. Instead, 9 out of 10 walls I place will be directly behind the enemy. That's because a wall in front of the enemy is a wall wasted, a wall that cannot do what it was designed to do. So let's talk about these walls. First up is the Thornlash Wall. This is your shift on PC. It places a small wall up to 10 meters away from you. As long as you're within 20 meters of the wall, it will lash out and smack enemies for like 60 damage that you're doing damage to. So let me ask you this. Why would you put that wall in front of someone, blocking your view of them? You can't do damage to that enemy now. You've cut off your own line of sight. So the wall isn't going to be able to do what it's supposed to do, which is smack people. But if I put the wall right behind someone, I can hit them with my primary or with my spore grenade, and the wall is going to block their escape while also doing a ton of damage to them as it constantly lashes out and strikes them from behind. Ultimately, I don't want the wall to get destroyed. So if I put it in front of the enemy, they're just going to gun it down and delete it almost immediately, and the wall can't do its job. But if I put it behind them, they won't be damaging it. That means it's another damage source, and it walls off their escape as they try to backpedal. They're just walking backwards into the wall, pinning themselves against it. Now, I can have up to 3 walls on the field at a time. So if I put 2 or even 3 walls around them, every single wall is going to start simultaneously lashing out and slapping them, dealing compounding damage, making Groot an extremely lethal trapper. If you're a good Groot, you can do damage on par with some of the biggest damage dealing duelists on your team. So start thinking about these walls as backboards, not obstructions. There will be times every now and then when you need to toss one up in front of the enemy so that you can escape, okay? I'm not blind to that, but that's gonna be on average once for every 15 walls you throw up. Now, I did not make that number up. I literally combed through 4 hours of gameplay footage that I recorded to calculate my personal average for defensive walls. Almost every Thornlash wall you place should be offensive, placed behind the enemy to lock them into a fight with you where they're pinned between you and a wall, 2 different damage sources. Now, we'll get to the Ironwood Wall in a minute. That's a big one with extra health. But first, since we're talking about using your Thornlash walls correctly, we need to chat about the SporeBomb a bit, okay? It's a little grenade you toss out. It does, I think, like 55 damage on explosion, and then it tosses out little spores that do like 10 damage each. Now, let me ask you something. What is the value of something that does 10 damage? I mean, that's like negligible. Why would it toss out a ton of little 10 damage spores? Well, the answer is simple. Those spores exist for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to activate your Thornlash walls. So one thing you'll see in the gameplay is me putting a wall up behind multiple enemies and then immediately throwing out a spore bomb to splash damage everyone. Now, it's not a ton of damage. The bomb itself, the initial 55 if they're in the radius, sure. But all the little 10 damage splashes, it's not a ton of damage. But I do that because now the wall will lash out and smack everybody that got damaged by it within 5 meters of it. So the spore bomb is basically wasted if you throw it and there isn't a wall nearby. It does poor damage in a radius, and it does less damage to a single target than your primary attack does. So use it near your walls to activate them, make them come to life, and cause them to lash out and deal damage to multiple enemies. That's the one reason it exists. I'm a forgetful person by nature, and one of the ways that I remember important things is by coming up with like pneumatic devices to help me remember them. Little rhymes or repeated phrases that I use to help my mind remember something specific. Now for me, when it comes to using the spore bomb and the Thornlash Wall, I always say something like audibly. I out loud say this while I'm gaming by myself in my office. Any viewers out there Left 4 Dead fans by chance? Okay, in Left 4 Dead 2, there's a character named Ellis, and whenever he sees a little bile grenade in the game, he goes, "Bile bomb," to call it out to his teammates. Bile bomb. So when I'm playing Groot, I always say out loud, "Wall bomb," in Ellis's voice. I know it's stupid. Trust me, I know how dumb that sounds coming out of my own mouth, but it reminds me to put a wall up behind an enemy and then immediately throw a bomb. Wall bomb. So if that helps you, you have my permission to say wall bomb whenever you wall and bomb an enemy, okay? All right, let's talk about the Ironwood Wall. This is another thing Groots do wrong. If I see a Groot put an Ironwood Wall up in my face, I'm ashamed to admit, I just immediately don't take them seriously. Okay, this wall is bigger. It has more health than your Thornlash walls. But when you're within 20 meters of an Ironwood Wall, you get bonus HP every time you or an ally does damage. Now you'll notice in the gameplay, I often have 1100 health. Do you know how easy it is to win a 1v1 when you have 1100 health? It's a cakewalk. That's because I use this wall fundamentally different than most Groots. Again, this goes back to the inaccurate assumption that Groot is an obstruction hero. He's not. Don't put this wall in your enemy's face, like ever. Instead, put it off to the side somewhere close by. I put it right up next to a flat surface, so it's specifically not in anyone's way. I don't want people breaking it. I don't want it taking damage. But as long as it's safe, I'm going to have a constant, unending stream of health coming my way in the middle of fights. Even when I'm not fighting, if my teammates are doing damage, then I'm getting health. This is what makes Groot an actual tank. You're getting so much more mileage out of this Ironwood Wall if you don't put it in the way of the enemy. And by the way, this 20-meter radius goes through surfaces, goes through walls, so you don't have to have it out in the open. You can put it behind a wall somewhere. You'll still get the benefits of the effects. And your enemy won't break it because they don't care about it. No one wants to sit there in the middle of combat breaking a wall that's off to the side somewhere, not bothering anybody, while they're taking damage in the back, right? No, they're going to be fighting you instead, so they'll leave the wall alone. But the whole time you're doing damage to them, you are actively generating extra health for yourself. That's so much more useful than putting the wall up in your enemy's face and letting them break it in a couple of short seconds. Remember, you are not an obstruction. Stop thinking of yourself that way. You can be an obstruction if and when the situation calls for it, but that's something that you flex to when needed. It's not your role, and it's not your primary job. So bolster your health while simultaneously pinning the enemy in and doubling or tripling your damage sources with thorn walls while your iron wall reinforces your HP pool. And whenever the fight moves to a new part of the map, you just hit E to despawn your iron wall and then put it in a new spot. Easy peasy. Now, one thing we haven't really chatted about much yet is your primary fire. Okay, this attack goes out 20 meters. It travels fast enough to feel like a hit scan attack sometimes, but it's not. You do actually have to lead your shot a little bit if they're further away. But you can smack flyers out of the air with this attack too when you dial it in. It hits pretty hard, 70 damage. If people are directly in front of you, you can mix in a standard melee in between attacks to increase your DPS. So primary fire melee, primary melee, primary melee. I remapped my melee attack. I don't like reaching for the V key, so I have melee remapped to one of my mouse buttons that I just hit with my thumb. So I left click, thumb click, left click, thumb click. It's very easy to do, and it will up your DPS. But you can see my normal cadence is to pop a wall, throw a Spore Bomb, and then follow it up with primary attacks. That is your bread and butter approach to any fight. Alright, let's talk about Groot's ultimate, Strangling Prison. This ult is so strong, so insanely strong, but it's easy to mess up. Most people are just tossing it out when they see a lot of enemies, but it's not that simple. It pulls everyone to a central location, it holds them in place for a while doing small little damage over time ticks. It's great when used as a combo ult with people like Moon Knight or Namor on your team, for example. But it has the capacity to be a huge damage dealer for just Groot alone, too, when you set it up properly. And you're going to see a lot of multi-kills in this video with me using this ult properly. But remember, the Thornlash Wall combo, remember that combo with the SporeBomb, remember Wall Bomb? We're going to do the same thing, but instead of using the SporeBomb, we're going to use the ultimate. So what you'll see me do in the gameplay is I'll throw the Thornlash Wall up behind the enemy, and then I'll toss the ult out, and it pulls everyone right up next to the wall. That's because the ultimate is going to do damage over time as it holds them in place. It's not a lot of damage, those ticks, so we have to ask, why is it a thing? Well, it's a thing because you're supposed to combo it with a Thorn Wall. Now that everyone is taking constant damage in the ult, the wall is going to come alive and start slapping the shit out of everyone in the ult. It's a frick ton of damage all at once, and most people are just going to get nuked by the damage. This is the best way to use the ult. And if you manage, God forbid, to get 2 walls behind them, it's a freaking game over, man. It's a G. So start getting into the habit of putting a wall up behind the enemy before you drop the ult. That way you have a backboard of damage to pin them to. Ultimately, try to think about Groot as he puts enemies in an Iron Maiden. Okay, you're surrounding them with damage. You're squeezing tightly around them. He's a constrictor. He's not an obstruction. He's a constrictor. So get that out of your mind. Now, let's mention some other things before we wind this video down. We talked about trapping people in, pinning them in. Hey, this works very well against squirrely characters who try to get out of combat quickly. So look at this Spider-Man, for example. I get a couple of primary attacks in on him, get him really weak, but then he's so friggin' bouncy, and it's difficult to hit him and finish him off sometimes. So I miss a couple of attacks. He goes to zip away straight for the health pack that's right on the other side of this little half wall here. You know the one. But I know what he's doing, okay? I've played enough Spideys to know what he's doing. So I really quickly hit shift and click, because I put my arms up in the air, and then I throw a wall up, and he slams his face into the wall, blocking him off from the health pack. And then my Spore Grenade comes in, plasters him against the wall, and kills him. It's a thing of genuine beauty, okay? Especially since this particular Spidey was talking mad crap in the game chat. Also, do you hate when Bruce Banner gets away after you take him out of his Hulk form? Easy solution. When he's doing his de-hulking animation, you just wall him in so he has nowhere to go. And you toss that Spore Bomb out the second he finishes his animation. Boom, 55 damage. Boom, an extra couple of tens of damage with the spores. But then both of the walls are going to reach out and smack him each for like, what is it, 60 damage apiece? Bam, bam. He's cooked, man. It's a free kill for Groot. But we do have to chat about counters, okay? There's 2 main counters to Groot that I think have the potential to ruin your fun. One is Wolverine, a really good Wolverine. Okay, Groot is slow. If a Wolverine carries you away, it can be very difficult to get back to your team. Even if you're trying to put walls up in his face to block him off from chasing you, he's going to be hugging you really tightly and slashing you, even if he's just a halfway decent Wolverine. So you're usually just going to end up putting the walls behind him, and they can't block him off. So the best strategy I've found is instead to, as fast as you can, put 2 walls around yourself and turn it into a cage fight, and hope and pray that your walls do enough damage to him to put him down. The other main counter is the Human Torch. I mean a good torch, okay? A good torch player is going to destroy your walls with his flame fields and then dive on you when you're weakened, so he can hit you with 196 damage headshots up close and melt you. That's his primary fire, that's what it does. Okay, I can tell you as a Lord Torch, I love when there are Groots on the enemy team because they are easy kills for a really good torch, so bear that in mind, Groot players. Other than that, Groot works best in a traditional team. So if you have 2 off healers and like 3 melee duelists on your team, chances are pretty good it's going to be a rough match for Groot. If you have good sustain heals and another strong frontline tank, you're going to be cooking though. And with that, I think it's time to close this video out, okay? Hey, just remember, You're setting up cage fights. You're an Iron Maiden. You're not an obstruction. I hope you found this guide helpful and you learned something new. If you did, would you let me know by leaving a like on the video, as that is the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube, and consider subscribing for additional Marvel Rivals content. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.